So today we are going over corresponding parts of congruent figures. First thing we're going to go over is our vocabulary. What you need to know first is if two geometric figures have exactly the same shape and size, they are congruent. In two congruent polygons, all of the parts of one polygon are congruent to the corresponding parts or matching parts of the other polygon. These corresponding parts include corresponding angles and corresponding sides. If you remember from our last unit, in topic 3, we learned that corresponding means that they are in the same position. So let's go over corresponding sides and angles of a triangle. So in this, we have triangle ABC and triangle RST. First, let's go over corresponding angles. If we have angle A in our bottom left of our triangle, its corresponding angle would be angle R because it is also in the bottom left of our triangle, or where the orange and the gray lines meet. Angle B corresponds with angle S, and angle C corresponds with angle T. Because these angles on the left, in the triangle on the left, correspond with the angles in the triangle on the right, or they are in the same position. If we have line or side AB, so the bottom of our triangle is side AB. This corresponds to the bottom of our triangle on the right, which is RS. So side AB and RS are corresponding sides. They're in the same position on the triangle. The same can be said for side BC and side ST. They're on the same place in the triangle, so they are corresponding. And lastly, we have side AC and side RT. They are also a set of corresponding sides. Now we'll go over the definition of congruent polygons. A polygon just means a shape. So if two polygons are congruent, if and only if their corresponding parts are congruent. So in this model, we have two different triangles, and this time the triangles are not oriented in the same way. We have to use the arches inside the angles and the hash marks on the sides to determine if they are congruent or not. So in this one, we can see that angle A has two of these arches inside the angle. So then we have to go to our other triangle and see which angle has two of these arches. And in this case, it's angle H. So we can say that angle A and angle H are congruent and they are corresponding angles because they are in the same position on the triangle. We can go over here and look at angle B. It has one of these arches. We go to our other triangle to find which one has one arch, and it's angle J. So we can say that angle B is congruent to angle J. They are a set of corresponding angles, or their angles are in the same position on the triangle. Lastly, we have angle C and has three of these arches inside of the angle. So does angle K. So we can say angle C is congruent to angle K. We use a similar idea to determine congruent sides or corresponding sides. We have AB right here, and it has one of these hash marks. Then we can go to our second triangle and see which side has one hash mark, and it's this one right here. So we can say that side AB is congruent to side HJ. Now, something important to note. We just learned that angle A is paired with or is corresponding to angle H. So when we write out our sides, if we have A first for one triangle, we need to have H first for the second, because we want to make sure that our corresponding angles are always in the same position in our statements. So back to corresponding sides. Over here, side BC has two of these marks. So we come to our second triangle and we say, okay, line JK also has two of our hash marks. So we can say that side BC is congruent to side JK. Remembering again to have our B and our J in the same position and our C and our K in the same position. Lastly, side AC goes with side HK. We know this because AC has 3 marks and HK has 3 marks. Once we have our set of corresponding angles and our set of corresponding sides, we can make something called a congruence statement. This is telling us that one shape is congruent to the other shape. In this case, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle HJK. Remembering again to have our A and our H together, our B and our J together, and our C and our K together, because we want our corresponding angles to be written in the same position in our congruence statement. For an example, an invalid statement would look something like this. So we still have ABC like we did on our first one. However, this time we have angle J first. Well, if we have angle A, we know that angle A and angle J are not congruent to each other. Because of this, this means that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle JKH is an invalid congruence statement. So again, make sure that we're keeping our corresponding angles in the same position on our congruence statement. Now we just proved congruence for 2 triangles. However, we can do this for other polygons as well. So this says to show that the polygons are congruent by identifying all of the congruent corresponding parts, then write a congruence statement. So we have angle A right here, kind of in the middle of our polygon on the left side. If we have angle A right here, we go over to our second polygon and we look to see which angle is in the same position as angle A. And in this case, it is angle R. We can do the same thing for B. B is in the bottom left corner. So we go over to our second polygon and we say which one is in the bottom left corner. And in this case, it is T. We can do this for all of our different angles, and we will end up with all of these corresponding angle statements. So angle A is congruent to angle R. They're in the same position. Angle B is congruent to angle T. They are in the same position. The same can be said for angle C and angle P. angle D and angle S, and angle E and angle Q. This list right here is giving us all of our corresponding angles. Once we have our corresponding angles, we can go back and look at our figure again and say we have side AB, kind of on the bottom left side of our polygon here. So which one is the bottom left side of this polygon? It's going to be side RT. Again, we can work around our shape, looking at all the different sides, and create our corresponding sides statements. So they will be as follows. Side AB is congruent to side RT. Side BC, or the bottom of our polygon on the left, is congruent to the bottom of our polygon on the right, which is side TP. So BC is congruent to TP. Then we have that side CD is congruent to side PS. Side DE is congruent to SQ. And side EA is congruent to QR. Once we have our our corresponding angles and our corresponding sides, and we know that all of those are congruent, we can write our congruence statement. So for this one, our congruence statement is going to say, all corresponding parts of the two polygons are congruent. Therefore, polygon ABCDE, which is this one right here, is congruent to polygon RTPSQ, which is this one right here. One last thing. For this congruence statement, we started with A on this side for our first polygon, and we started with R on this side because A goes with R, B goes with T, C goes with P, D goes with S, and E goes with Q. We know this because we found our corresponding angles up here. So we wrote our congruence statement where our corresponding angles were paired up in the same position. However, I could have started with C. If I had started with C for my congruence statement and said C, D, E, A, and then B for my first congruence statement, then on my second polygon, if I started with C on this side, I have to go up here and say, okay, C goes with P. So if I started with C, I have to start with P on this side. So on this side, I would go P, and then D pairs with S, E pairs with Q, A pairs with R, and B pairs with T. So it does not matter which angle you start with in your congruence statement as long as your corresponding parts are in the same position in your congruence statement. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know. Thank you and have a good day.